The man who murdered a precious and innocent 2.5-month-old baby is now a free man. Today we're going over the case of Katelynn Gonzalez. Baby Katelynn was born to her mom Jessica on February 23rd of 2003. She had dark brown hair and beautiful green eyes, and at the time she had an older sister who was only 2 years old. And as a family, they lived in Rosamond, California in an apartment complex. But Katelynn's mom Jessica was surrounded by love and support there. Her brother-in-law lived in the apartment just downstairs from her, and then her grandmother also lived in that complex. And Jessica also had a boyfriend at the time. His name was Lawson. And Kyle posed as a very caring and trustworthy person. And Jessica trusted him until May 6th of 2003. You see, Jessica had a very quick errand to run. She was just going to go a mile away for about 30 minutes because she needed to go meet with Wick. The formula that she previously had for Katelynn was just not settling with her stomach very well, so she was going to go exchange that for a different formula. And when she left her apartment, it was just Lawson there and then her 2 daughters. Her 2 daughters were asleep when she left. They were taking a nap. And at this point, it was around 9:30 a.m. But during that time, the unthinkable happened. Katelynn woke up from her nap and started to cry. Instead of picking her up and soothing her, instead of grabbing a bottle, or instead of even contacting the grandmother or the brother-in-law who were super close, Kyle decided to start punching the baby girl. And from what he said, he punched her 8 times in the head. And in the transcripts that you can see on the screen, he admitted to doing this, and he said that she was looking up at him with her beautiful green eyes as he was doing so. He said that he saw pain and fear in her eyes, and that she looked at him as if she was wondering when he was going to stop. But he didn't stop. He kept going until Katelynn was gone. When Kyle first realized what he had done, he didn't call 911 right away. Instead, he placed a call to his grandmother and his cousin. Those 2 people advised him to call 911, so the first 911 call came at 10:15 a.m. And whether you're a parent or not, I'm sure you can assume the confusion, the heartbreak, and the utter betrayal that Jessica faced as she got back to her home and realized that her baby girl was murdered. Today in 2024, Katelynn should be 21 years old. Her adult life should just now be beginning. Her mom said that Kyle robbed her of ever being able to see her daughter grow up. He robbed her of ever going dress shopping with her daughter, of going through school together, of going to prom, of applying and picking out colleges together. He even deprived Katelynn and her sisters of ever experiencing that sisterly bond. And Katelynn never got to meet her little brother who came after her. And Kyle had no good reason to do this. This was a senseless act of violence. Jessica was providing for him. She was the one working. She was the one getting food. She was the one paying rent. His entire life and his lifestyle was dependent on her. She was the head of the household, and he betrayed her. Kyle was of course arrested. After Kyle was arrested, he admitted to more of the cruel things that he did to Katelynn. He said that when she first started crying, he didn't want to go into the room. He got angry and he did not want this responsibility. He then said that he eventually convinced himself to go into the room, and he picked up Katelynn and he threw her on the bed twice. Kyle also said that he struck Katelynn on her bottom for 5 to 10 minutes. And hard. Later on, he would also admit to physically abusing Katelynn's 2-year-old sister. He said that the reason he didn't call 911 right away and instead called his grandmother and cousin is because he didn't want to take responsibility for what he had done. And keep in mind that he did all these atrocious things to baby Katelynn in 30 minutes. Now, when it came down to it, Kyle was charged with second-degree murder, and he only got 15 years to life in prison for her murder. However, he got out yesterday, April 15th of 2024, after only serving 20 years. And keep in mind that he got no additional charges for physically abusing Katelynn's 2-year-old sibling. He also admitted that while he was in prison, he used and he trafficked drugs. Once again, he did not get any more charges for that. And when he went under a psych evaluation, the results were not good. Dr. Wendy Chan concluded that he was violent. He had extremely violent tendencies and would take it out on anyone who he had a relationship with who was vulnerable either physically or emotionally with him. He was initially in Valley State Prison in Chowchilla, California, but he was released in Berkeley, California. And of course, Katelynn's mom, Jessica, as well as the rest of her family, tried to file motions to prevent this. But overall, it's thought that the reason he got out was because of overcrowding in prisons. Jessica wants you to know that this man who you're seeing on the screen is a threat to society and is a threat to children. He took Jessica's daughter from her, and that can never be returned, and Jessica, her family, and Katelynn's siblings will have to carry on with that grief, that hurt and that suffering for the rest of their lives. So he only served a small fraction out of the lifetime of pain that he has caused their family. Baby Katelynn deserves far more justice than what she has received. If you're a parent or if you've been around babies, you know that a 2.5-month-old can barely hold up their head. They can't roll over, they can't sit up, they cannot defend themselves in any way. Katelynn was an innocent and helpless baby girl who had her entire life in front of her. She has a mom who loves her, grandparents who love her, siblings who love her, who will never get to know her. Right now, I'm 21 years old. Katelynn should be here right now. She should be my age. She should be out and about living her life. But a heartless monster took that from her, and yet he is allowed to carry out the rest of his life as a free man. He admitted that he is a self-centered person. He admitted to knowing the pain that he was causing in that moment. He just simply didn't care, and his only excuse is that he got abused as a child. And my first thought there is that if you were abused as a child, you should not turn around and become the abuser, especially when you know how fragile children are. Like I said at the beginning of this video, he could have gone to the brother-in-law, he could have gone to the grandmother, but he did not. He had support around him. Any of those people would have willingly taken Katelynn and watched her without a second thought. Baby Katelynn Gonzalez deserves more than this, and I am hopeful that Kyle Lawson will end up back in prison one way or another. If you guys can, please take a moment to send a loving thought or a prayer to Jessica and her family and Katelynn. They need all of the support and love right now.